Welcome to Difficult Conversation Africa broadcast, a pioneering platform which attempts to raise, discuss issues many are afraid to face. I present to you the host, Yinka Olaito, a media communications development expert, author with about 2 decades experience in Africa and in the United States.
Hello, listeners. My name is Yinka Olaito. Welcome to Difficult Conversation African Podcast, a platform where we raise conversation many are afraid to discuss, and some of these are pivotal to development. Difficult Conversation Africa is a podcast that addresses issues many are afraid to discuss or face, and it's part of what we are trying to do here because continuous delaying of such conversation can destroy or can constitute a damage. In today's episode, we're looking at creative industry and national development. And please let me give you a background before I introduce my guest. The creative industry is very diverse and includes, among other, film, music, performing art, fashion, and visual art. According to International Finance Corporation, the creative industry is 2 trillion in size, providing significant revenue for small business and employment opportunity, especially for women and youth. Creative industry also account for 50 million jobs worldwide, according to UN estimate. About half of these workers are women, and the industry employ more than people within the age of 15 to 29 than any other sector. The industry's influence on cultural and soft power is very huge and holds the potential of national building as well as development. In terms of economic growth and contribution, Nigeria and Africa creative industry performance is huge and it keeps growing despite some of the noted challenges associated with financing. It has also solved and continue to solve the unemployment crisis and among others. To resolve this today, I have an expert, Mr. Femi Odugbemi, who is an accomplished filmmaker, content producer, and film scholar. He is the founder and executive producer of Zuri24Media Lagos. His screen credits over 30 years in creative industry, span feature films, multiple drama, TV series, document as well as documentary. He was one of the founding producers of the daily soap opera Tinsel and executive producer of Battleground, Brethren, Movements, Jakpa, and currently Convenance. He has also produced award-winning documentaries and feature films. Mr. Femi Odugbemi is a prolific mentor of young talent, serving as pioneer of academic director of the Multi-Choice Talent Factory for West Africa. He is a regular mentor for story pitches at the Dubai Film Mart in South Africa and an adjunct facilitator at NYU Abu Dhabi and the Pan-Atlantic University Lagos. He is a noted expert in storytelling across the continent. He is also co-founder of and director of I Represent International Documentary Film Festival in Lagos, a 14-member of Academy of Motion Pictures, Art and Science, and International Academy of Television, Art and Science. Mr. Femi is the producer of the Mandate and Impact Film adaptation of the prison memo of Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka, and now seeking international distribution. Welcome, Mr. Femi Odugbemi.
Thank you, Yinka. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for creating the time. I'm happy that you create the time. I know you are such busy. So we go into the conversation as fast as possible. What is your general view about the creative industry in Nigeria and Africa with regards to how it is promoting economic growth, social inclusion, and understanding between people?
Well, I think it's clear almost to everyone now that the blue ocean for every economy, especially within third world countries and developing nations, the place of opportunity economically is in the creative industries. I'm glad that you read out how broad the creative industries has become, because it embraces so many different aspects of production. One of the things that's very clear now is that the superpower, or what you can call the soft power of emerging economies, has to be within the creative sector, because that's the basic sector where the human resource seem to be not only available, but productive. And I think that's something that's very important to know. The second, obviously, is that we've moved across, in terms of world history, from that era of industrialization where we are building factories and all of that, to a place where intellectual property is the new, is the biggest asset that anyone can have. And because of that, Africa has a fighting chance, because Africa has the youngest population. Africa, especially Nigeria, it's been said several times that Nigeria has, more than 50% of Nigeria's population, are people under the age of 50. And that in itself alone presents challenges of employment, challenges of, development. And those challenges, especially the unemployment part, is easily solved by technology and by the creative industry. And the good thing for all of us is that, the technology and the creative industries intertwine. One is the basis for the other. One projects and promotes the other. One is a passageway for distribution and connection for the other. So for me, it's the place of possibilities, and it's somewhere I think we are in a time of opportunity now, where I think almost every government in Africa is rebasing its economy to be able to embrace the contribution of the creative economy.
You said it's a place of opportunity. How huge is that opportunity, sir?
Well, the opportunity breaks into many things. The first thing, obviously, I called it the soft power. The creative industries is where you have raw material, you have resource. The resource is our culture. The resource is our history. The resource is our music, is our songs, is our dance. The resource is our clothing. The resource is our food. So it's almost limitless in terms of the raw material that the creative industry needs. The second thing is technology has sort of fast-forwarded possibilities, because the tools for converting that raw material and all that, cultural assets into cultural production is also accessible. It's accessible through social media. It's accessible through satellite programming. It's accessible through equipment, production equipment that's cheaper, easier to use. It's accessible through phones and the fact that, the telephone and the internet have, very, very high percentage of penetration in almost every African country, especially Nigeria. So there is those things make its possibilities realizable. The third thing is it's connected. There is we live in a time where Africans have decolonized to a point where they're able to embrace these productions, the product of our creatives. Fashion, Nigerians are wearing amazing. I mean, the fashion industry is blown, hugely, and a lot of great designs and great designers are exploring African clothing, African fabrics, African material to create very elegant and very wonderful things. The same thing you'll see. We now have chefs who are specializing in local cuisine. You have Nollywood that are telling our stories with a little more, with far more efficiency, more creativity. We have, now, photography is a big thing. Now people have a culture of patronizing what I would call the creative workers. And so there is an economy being created because they are paying for these things. That's really what I mean when I say, first, it's a time of opportunity. But secondly, there is the possibility of an economy.
Yeah, you talk about cultural assets, and that will lead me to the next question, because you are so particular about the cultural asset. You see, my concern about the cultural asset is that the creative industry holds significant influence and authority. It has the capacity to change investors' perception and interaction with a country or region. Are actors within the industry aware of this?
Well, I think that is a work in progress. A work in progress in terms of the fact that, one, we're actually creating a lot of stuff from what I will call local resource. But we need to also have creators who have the consciousness and the understanding of the power of their art. Artistic creation and production is a function of identity. Every cultural product, every artistic, enterprise is cultural practice. So really what we are selling is who we are, our identity, what we believe in, what our worldview is, what our history is, and what makes us unique in the world. And those things are now being explored. And you can see that in the kind of films you see on Netflix and Amazon, and the work that we are doing, especially in fashion and food and all of that. What we need now is to cross the bridge where our creators are not only making movies, but making meaning. They're not only making products, but making products that represent not just our past or what you might call our present, but also our future, what it is that we represent. I think that's the missing link, in that a lot of our creators are young, and a lot of them were organically developed. That is, we do not have a conveyor belt of training that we need. We don't have enough film schools. We don't have enough dance schools. We don't have enough.
I think we will go into that.
And in those are the places where, see, those are the places where an artist is taught about representation. What you are trying to ask me is how much of this, how much of the what I would call imagination engineering, that the arts can platform, how much of it do our actors and our artists understand? It's a work in progress. We have
I had wanted to ask that question. that you are about to raise, that artists need to make meaning instead of movie. So that leads me to the next question. There are noted challenges in the industry which range from infrastructure, intellectual property, protection, and market access. What are the possible solutions to this? Because these are some of the things that some of these actors we expect to make meaning instead of movie. They are pushing forward while they are not doing the thing they should do.
Well, I mean, government has a responsibility to harness the possibilities of this space by creating what I will call a film-friendly environment. A film-friendly environment means that we are investing in the possibilities of the industry itself. We have started to do that, but I'm not sure that the investment is enough. We still need investment in production, facilities. We need investments in digital platforms, because all the platforms of distribution today, none of it is owned locally. All of them are foreign. We need distribution channels that would also enhance the content quality and the global competitiveness of the products we're making. But beyond that, we need access, we need mechanisms for financing, because you really can't do any kind of substantial work that has meaning without actually having enough financing mechanism to make sure that people can have equity, people can have grants, people can, you can give them, equity investments, give them structured incentives. All of these things empower the artists. It is when you are financing someone that you can begin to say to them, can they make stories that represent our best intentions, stories that have meaning in terms of how we are represented, how the society needs to look at itself and how it needs to behave. If you're not putting money on the table, if you're not supporting the production capacities, it's very difficult to complain about the kind of work that's being done, because commercial work is very different from work that is about imagination engineering. Every country has grants because those grants allow them to invest in the kind of films that they hope will be positive about the country, positive about the spaces, the people, represent the identity and the culture in a positive way. All of that is made possible when you actually have financial investment in that regard. The second thing, obviously, also is that we need to figure out how to strengthen intellectual property protection. There is just too much piracy even today, that the guys that are making film, that are investing in film, that are investing in the creative industries and fashion and all these things, also have grave difficulty. So much is lost in terms of investments in books, investments in all the sectors, that's another place where government has to be able to intervene with a strong legal framework. And we have good laws, but the enforcement is not quite there. And so you find that those who invest they are not benefiting financially. The third thing that I think is important is that government has to expand the market access.
Before we go into that, now that we know the sector has greater potential, why has there been no strong policy or commitment from the government to shape the industry? For instance, in Nigeria, government had tried to, they have projected a revenue generation of 100 billion from creative sector involving cultural tourism and creative economy by 2030. Yet, Ministry of Culture has starting agency where that is not practically strengthening the industry. So my question is, like you said, with the huge potential, where has there not been strong policy and commitment from the side of government?
I think that is changing. One of the things this current government has done is to create the Ministry of I believe, the creative economy. The Ministry of Culture now has culture and the creative economies.
But beyond the creation.
No, it's not just the creation. They are not dealing with creation. They're dealing with infrastructural investments. I am aware of that because I'm a member of a policy reform committee that's been created, which has to do with putting in place what the role of government going forward will be. A lot of the policy that up to now we have were created way back in 1960s, 1970s. A lot of them are old. And so we're trying to entrench into the constitutional framework an investment protocol in the creative industries. And that's ongoing. I believe the initial revision of the policy is already done. It's waiting for the government to approve it. But I'm aware that the current minister of the creative economy has a team in place that's focusing on how do we build more infrastructure across the country that is going to be in partnership with private sector that will allow many of these investments not to be government-led, that would be private sector-led. That's important because that has possibility of providing the infrastructure. The policy document we're working with is already very strong on enhancing enforcement of copyrights so that people can actually make more money from their products. But this infrastructure plan will provide many venues, many locations, many grants that will allow those who are creating to actually be able to access funds, access locations, access facilities like, the size of the National Theatre in different local governments across the country. One of the things those who are in music talk about is that there is no venue for concerts apart from a hotel and maybe National Theatre now. And now the idea is if you create those, you expand their market access. Though that's already ongoing now. And I think it's important to also note that everyone that's on the team of this particular ministry, this new ministry and this new minister, are all young people who are leading what I will consider a data-led research into how we not just copy other places, but apply, research into how we use our resources, our data from how we have been creating in the last 10, 20 years to what we need in terms of distribution, in terms of grants, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of capacity building. So I will not say, I will be wrong to say government is not doing anything until now, because I've had access to a meeting with investors, which held in Ikoyi maybe some 4 or 5 months ago, where this plan was put on the table. But the difference between this plan and the plans that I've seen in the past is that this plan is not anchored on government providing money. The room was filled with private companies, private leaders, and that's very important. Now, here's something I say to people. If private sector leaders can gather at a book launch and drop 17 billion in one day, imagine if we can convince them of the viability of the creative industries. We don't need a 17 billion in one day. We need it over a course of time. But if they thought that we had made a case for the viability, economic viability of the industry, we will never need government to actually make the industry, and I mean all sectors of it, prosper. That's where I think difference is today.
I think that, and just by the side, the mentioning of 17 billion, I'm sure, sir, you know that there's always interest. And so everything is influenced by interest. So the 17 billion may be of interest and giving back to a person they think they owe. But that's just by the side. That's not the focus of what we're talking. So I'm asking again, the next question is, theater generally and especially Live One contribute to development through its revenue generation. It has been said that what theater or film portray majorly imaginary experiences. For Nigeria especially, some of the portrayal still point to age-long archaic story which development had overtaken. So what do you think that the portrayals that we have in our theater, what do you think about the impact that it's affecting, particularly the negative impact on the perception of Africa and Nigeria at large? And what should we do?
I'm very interested in theater because I'm a fellow of the National Association of Theater Arts Practitioners. So theater is very fundamental to my interests. I tell you this, theater in Nigeria breaks into three parts. Of course, there is the heritage theater, which tells the stories that maybe a little back into our culture. But there are a lot of young playwrights who are also writing modernist plays that have to do with our the evolution of our cultures, our being together. There are many urban theater stories. I'm on the board of one or two of those kind of theater companies. I mean, Jacques Fila and the Crown Troops tell contemporary stories, and they travel globally, representing what the youth of Nigeria, what their stories are. For me, the bigger problem is that we don't have enough spaces. If you look at Lagos, for instance, they've just renovated National Theatre, and that place is hopefully will be open very soon and available to all the younger theatre artists to be able to work there. But if you take away Glover Hall, Terra Culture, and maybe some of the smaller theaters that Lagos State built in some of the local governments, you simply don't have the space, the stages to present the works that are different. So you find that a lot of the plays that people still see are plays that are in the university theater stages. And a lot of that are training plays that, rely on minimal budget, which can just use minimal costumes, drums are minimal. So the complexity of theater today, the lighting, the different effects and all of that, we are not able to do simply because the funding is not there, and some of the modern stories remain untold. And you also have to know that we have a large community of younger playwrights who have written their plays as books.
Thank you, Mr. Femi Odugwemi. Your passion has been demonstrated, and I'm so happy to have this interview with you. I'm so happy to have you share your thoughts on this podcast today. I can see the passion in you, and one thing that I'm so happy about is the fact that you are satisfied with your mentorship role, that you are so I can see it in your eyes when you are talking, that that you are so happy with the result you are getting. So I want to say thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you for the opportunity to share your knowledge with us. It's so good to have you. I'm sure I will have you for the second time, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Enjoy your evening and stay close.
Thank you for listening to this episode. For inquiry, please send an email to info@difficultconversationafrica.org. Telephone 0809 591. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Difficult Conversation Africa. See you soon.